A lot to unpack here with the commissioner visiting. So he has the ability under the Digital Markets Act to regulate big tech and potentially fine big tech companies. Also potentially has the ability to regulate artificial intelligence with the EU AI Act. That's still in draft form right now. So those are things that he could do or potentially could do. What do you believe he actually wants to achieve with this visit?
I think it's important to state the obvious, which is there's no other industry where regulation is such a mess as it is in tech. So, where else would you see misinformation, ethical concerns, copyright infringement, online fraud, obstruction of justice, and all these kind of issues totally going unchecked by the regulators? So I think what Thierry Breton is trying to do is trying to warn big tech that when enforcement of the Digital Services Act and the Digital Market Act comes in at the end of August, he means business and he's serious.
All right, so when you say that he means business, what kind of business does he mean? Does that mean fines are coming? Does that mean possibly forcing them to change how they do their business or maybe even pull out of Europe?
I think he's got three weapons that he can potentially use. The first is the Digital Services Act, and that's all about asking big tech or requesting or legally obliging big tech to moderate their content, whether that's illegal content, online hate speech or disinformation. And that applies to, over 10 big tech companies with over 45 million users in the US, in Europe. The second is the Digital Markets Act, which applies really to digital gatekeepers, and that's basically big tech, the people who own the AI systems, and he can find them as well when these enforcement when enforcement comes in August. And then the third thing is the EU AI Act, which isn't coming in at all for another 2 or 3 years, so 2025, 2026.
So basically, this is, hey, listen, I'm watching. It's more like a warning. I'm watching you. We have to see how things develop there. It's not lost on a lot of people that these meetings are happening here in the United States, and generally it's seen the United States is well behind Europe when it comes to regulation. What could this possibly mean for U.S. regulation down the line? The things that we see come out of this meeting, how do you think U.S. lawmakers will view them and possibly act on them?
I think what you see, yesterday with Lina Khan, chair of the FTC, what she's doing with Amazon, I think the U.S. regulators now, under a democratic regime, are broadly on the same progressive lines as the European regulators. But there's some key differences. In the U.S., the primary concern for regulators is that they must maintain tech supremacy for the U.S. because China is a big economic and military competitor. But however, and they're always behind on regulation, partly to encourage tech innovation. So in AI regulation, they've got nothing at all. By contrast, the EU, their main concern for regulation is to protect their consumer. The EU doesn't really have a big tech sector, and they want to encourage startups, which means blocking monopolies from US big tech. And they are introducing the AI Act in the EU in 2025, and that will be the first big thing. And it's important to also say what's happening in China, because China is the big tech competitor for the US, not the EU.
Yeah, absolutely.
And their primary concern is really to protect the future of the Communist Party, and their cybersecurity laws effectively give the government control of their tech sector.
All right, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but which of these U.S. tech giants do you see potentially having the biggest trouble with these EU regulations?
I think initially for the enforcement regime that's coming in August, social media platforms like Google, Meta, TikTok from China, they're going to have to pass stress tests. We don't know if Twitter's passed its stress test, and they're going to have to moderate content. And it's proven to be very, very difficult in the past. So they'll lobby hard, but it just depends how tough Thierry Breton wants to be. In the medium term, the AI leaders, Microsoft, Google, OpenAI, and other companies, they're going to have to show that they are not monopolizing their position as digital gatekeepers. They have a lot of data. They have high compute power. And they might be forced, in a way, to sign a voluntary AI pact with Thierry Breton to show that they're serious.